I have something to show you. Hey y'all, it's Molly with Many Acres Farm, and today I'm excited to show you what we did over the weekend. So I'm sitting here on my new raised bed that we made out of concrete block, and I'm going to show you a little footage from us putting that together this weekend, and then we'll come back together and talk about it. So enjoy! So before we take a look at this bed and this area that we cleared out a lot this weekend, I was thinking as we were working this weekend, and as I am pretty tired and kind of sore, that I wanted to share some words of encouragement for anyone else who might be feeling challenged because you deal with anxiety and depression, or you're dealing with grief, or maybe you're dealing with physical limitations or health issues that prevent you from really being able to get outside and do a lot of work in the garden. And maybe you are like me and you've watched other channels, bigger channels that have huge gardens and lots of harvest, and you're thinking, I could never do that, I could never get that big. I want to be an encouragement because that's part of the reason that I wanted to start this channel. That's part of the reason I wanted to make these kind of videos, because I didn't really do a lot over the weekend, yet I'm really drained. It really drained a lot of my energy, what little bit that I did manage to do. And my point is, I still feel encouraged for the future, because every little bit that I do, every little bit that my family is able to help me do, puts me that much further towards my dreams. So I want to be an encouragement to you that even if you can't do everything at once, even if you can't do it all, you can do one small thing. Maybe it's just getting a bucket and raising one tomato plant in a bucket on your porch. Or maybe it's even just buying tomatoes at the farmer's market and canning their tomatoes. There are so many things that you can do to provide food for yourself, to provide food for your family, to feel a sense of accomplishment without going full force, full tilt, headlong into some giant project that normal people might be able to do. Right? So I hope that makes sense, because that is my main purpose, is sharing my experience as someone who has health issues and limitations because of anxiety and depression and grief. I don't think that most people who haven't experienced major grief in their life can possibly understand how draining that is on your energy, your ability to focus, and your physical abilities. if I get my heart rate up too much, I used to do like boot camp workouts, and now if I get my heart rate up, it's like it brings on a panic attack because my body is already on edge, if that makes sense, because of the fact that I'm under constant stress because of grief, because there's no way around the fact that this is my life. This is what I live with because my daughter is dead. So I just want to be an encouragement to you. If you have mental or physical limitations, any little bit that you can do is a step forward and should be celebrated. So that's it. I'm going to stop talking about that now, and we're going to talk about the garden. Okay? So here is our new raised bed. I was really excited because back in the spring, I laid down some paper. It was like a really thick brown paper that my son or my husband brought home from work. And I used it to mark this area because I just wanted to see what would it look like if I did put a raised bed here. Well, underneath that paper were a bunch of worms. And so I'm really excited that that means that I'm starting with a good foundation in this spot. I can totally see that some of the blocks are wobbly and uneven, and I will adjust that as I go. Like I said, my energy level is limited, so I can just do a little bit at a time, but every little bit helps and counts, right? So whenever I laid down the cardboard and then we laid down the blocks, I have filled the bed with leaves and grass and rabbit manure. Basically just gonna let that stuff break down. I think I'll cover it for the winter just to make sure that no seeds pop up, but I'm just gonna let that break down over the course of the winter before adding compost on top and then using this bed. Another thing is I was gonna make this 2 blocks high, but once we got this one layer down, it's pretty even with my other beds. I'll move to a different spot so you can see that better. But because it's pretty even with my other beds, I was like, well, for now, I'll at least, for the next year or whatever, I'll just keep it 1 block high. And then this other stack of blocks, I will be coming in here and making this little makeshift bed a proper raised bed. So why did I make it 4 feet wide by 24 feet long? That's a great question. This is the first raised bed that I started with 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Y'all know I can't trust my memory. That we built with landscape timbers, and they are warping and apparently gonna rot pretty quickly based on some landscape timbers that I have over near the house. So I'm pretty sure the reason that I made this bed 4 feet wide by 24 feet long was simply based on how many landscape timbers I had and that I wanted to stack them 3 high. So that's pretty much the only reason these beds are the size that they are. But then we built this bed on the other side. So this spring, this was a new bed, and I made it to match and put 4 feet of space between each bed. And then this little spot here will be 4 feet between the beds lengthwise and shortwise. I don't know, does that make sense? That's the reason that my beds are the size that they are and where I've laid them out. So let's take a walk over here. Ignore the places that are not cleaned up yet. I am still pulling weeds and raking up bits of cardboard that have just blown all over the yard. But over here you can see where I actually already dug up a lemon tree and a fig tree. They just weren't doing great right here, and also I just wanted to overwinter them inside my greenhouse just to hopefully save them for next year. And you can see back there behind the blueberry bushes that is where I grew watermelon and squash and okra last year, and they did so well. But this year things didn't go so well, and honestly I should have done a better job of amending that spot. But now I'm not sure what I'm gonna do back there. I think for right now I might just do composting. I might just make some compost piles in that area for now and just use that space for that. So over here you can see in this corner, can you see the fence where we fenced in this space? I have space for 2 more beds going up under this sycamore tree, and I'm debating if I should add 2 more beds or not. or if I should use this space for something else, like keep this area open for a couple of maybe miniature fruit trees. Let me know what you think. What would you do if this were your space? Would you make more raised beds or use it for something else? When my husband came in here and cut the grass and the weeds down, I was better able to get to this old little kiddie pool raised bed and see that there's actually some stuff growing in here beyond the weeds. I actually see some thyme and oregano that are doing really well. So I'm going to see if I can pull the weeds and keep the herbs that are going well established. And I don't know, I might move this over closer to the greenhouse. I haven't decided yet, but I'm kind of afraid to move it. It's been here for a long time. But I'm glad to see, even amongst these crazy weeds, I still have some herbs growing, so that's encouraging. So I hope you enjoyed this little look at this new raised bed that we're making, and I encourage you to try to find materials for free. You could use, you know, just about anything, even if it's free lumber that hasn't been treated and so it might not last but a season or two. It's still better than nothing if you're wanting to build raised beds. But you can grow in anything. You can just grow, you can just dig a hole in your ground. And honestly, when I was making these raised beds, I think that my goal is in the future to continue to make them taller, because as I get older, I want to be able to continue gardening without having to do a lot of bending over. And that's sort of the ultimate goal of my raised beds. So as I replace the materials for the wood beds, maybe eventually I'll do all concrete blocks. It depends on how the blocks do in my climate and my weather. Making them taller over the years so that it becomes easier and easier to garden without bending over, and also being able to fill the soil and add compost over the years as I can afford it. I think if I tried to make a 3-foot tall bed right now, that would be very expensive to try to fill it up, even with putting limbs and leaves and grass and all the other things, you know, like halfway up. It's still a lot of compost if you have to buy your compost. So let me know what you guys are doing in your garden. Are you making plans for next year? Are you building raised beds? Are you going to be gardening in ground or in containers? Let me know what you guys are working on. And share it in the comments so that we can get ideas from each other and support each other.